Ladies and gentlemen, the following podcast is scheduled for one fall. Introducing your hosts, Kids at Hart.
That intro so hard. Hello and welcome to Wrestle Reel. I am Chris Anthony Lopez. That is my boy Nick Molbach, and we are Kids at Hart. Nick, man, we're doing a wrestling show.
Finally, this has been in talks for I don't know how long. I am so excited to do this. This is your non-traditional wrestling podcast. We have to remember that. But
yes,
we are here to have fun. We're here to talk wrestling. We're going to have guests eventually. We're going to go live eventually. Right now it's pre-recorded for your enjoyment. But hey, we're finally here. I think that that's the first step, because I remember I was like, oh my gosh, let's do this, and this. And then it's like, hey, let's get that episode 1 out first. And we finally did. So cheers to that.
exactly, dude. Like you said, we've been talking about it for weeks, maybe even months at this point. And we talk about wrestling in between, like real talk episodes, spin from the reels. I mentioned wrestling on spin from the reel at least once a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not even funny anymore. Like I used to force it. Now it just happens casually. And I mean, we're all a bunch of marks over here at Who Are They Real Entertainment. And like you said, we're not going live yet. So we're sticking out just a little bit, but that means like we're out here watching the wrestling shows with you guys. So that's as simple as that. There's a lot of wrestling that goes on every single week. And Nick and I, we're going to talk about little to none of it because we're the most unconventional wrestling show. Of course, we're going to talk about just the bigger things, the things we like, things we don't like. Simple as that, especially the last few months. But I mean, today we're going to introduce you guys to what we're bringing to the table, what we're bringing to the ring, one might say.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, we would be remiss to start this episode off without saying rest in peace to Road Warrior Animal. Passed away today, unfortunately. I remember Animal. It's crazy because there's certain wrestlers that transcend generations, and you would have never thought that he would definitely be one of them. Obviously, when he was with Hawk, they were one of the most dominating tag teams of all time. But right when I'm starting to get into wrestling, I get him with Heidenreich, who's an interesting wrestler and an interesting beast. And later on, you get, he did suffer from one of those 2000 tag teams that nobody likes with the Road Warriors 2000 or whatever. But like, there's a great video on like top 10 worst new tag teams, because there were so many new tag teams, but they were one of them. But even his match against Heath Slater, just hearing that What a Rush entrance, one last time was so fantastic. So hey, rest in peace.
Today, at least the time of this recording, we woke up to that news, and it was heartbreaking, especially hearing the wrestlers' reaction because the wrestling world, for as crazy as it can get sometimes, for as controversial and political as it can get, there are just some people that stick out, and there are some people that are they're overall just loved by wrestlers and fans alike. And one of those guys, oh, look at that. And one of those guys, sorry. No, you're fine, is Road Warrior Animal. And you saw a lot of love for him on social media, pictures from the Iron Sheik all the way to Enzo Amore. Like there are people showing love for Road Warrior Animal. And I mean, WWE Hall of Famer, regardless of what you think of the Hall of Fame, the Road Warriors were immortalized. And when Hawk tragically passed away, his whole career changed, but he still made the best of it. And he carried on the legacy that Hawk had, and as the two of them as the Road Warriors. So one of the best tag teams of all time. You can't have a tag team conversation without talking about the Road Warriors, especially if you were around and watching wrestling at the time. So, I mean, rest in peace, Road Warrior Animal. Just wow. At 60 years old, at the young age of 60, really upsetting. So all of our thoughts with Joe Laurinaitis' family, because that's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. He's gone way too soon, and the wrestling community will miss him dearly.
That's right.
That's right. So now that we just want to show some love to Road Warrior Animal, but let's get the show on the road.
So explain to me, Chris, how we're going to be doing things around here when it comes to our subjects.
So every single week we will have a 3 count. If you're a wrestling fan, you know exactly what that is. So we will have our 3 topics for every single show, regardless of what they are. Today, you're going to see shortly what those 3 topics are going to be. That's then at the end, we'll have our big finish, essentially a recap, something we missed, something that we forgot to bring up, or that we want to emphasize. We'll talk about that during the finish. And in between, we may have some high spots, but we'll get to those when we get there. But first of all, let's hit that 3 count, starting with number 1. First of all, there are so many things happening in the world of wrestling right now. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing, at least of 2020, that we cannot just look past is the state of wrestling in the pandemic. Who would have thunk it that professional wrestling, this traveling circus of sweaty guys oiling themselves up, going to fight each other every day, it would come to a screeching halt in March. Mm-hmm. And now we're seeing it come into the full swing of things. But Nick, I posed a question to you. How did you feel about wrestling continuing when the pandemic started? And how do you think it is now, especially now that they're comfortable with it months later?
Well, frankly, let's start with this. There was absolutely no chance in hell, no pun intended, that McMahon was ever going to stop doing wrestling. He was going to figure out a way to continue on. And chances were great that the way that they were going to continue on was going to be the way that was going to be replicated by everybody else, AEW. Even though I will say AEW has implemented some stuff in, and we'll get to that a little bit later, that is different. But, you know, there was so much that went into it. Clearly, they were going to... There was no worse of a time for this to have happened than WrestleMania time. You know, well, there's clearly no good time for a pandemic, but WrestleMania is your flagship show, and you have to completely change it. And I thought that, they did okay with it. I think that was kind of their first step, was to, you know, when I think of WrestleMania, clearly this one was going to be underwhelming. When I think of WrestleMania, I wanted more because of the crowds, the big explosions. You know, maybe spreading it across 2 nights was a blessing in disguise for the amount of wrestling that we were going to get. But
oh man, it's a great point.
They're trying, you know, there's no doubt about it. It got better. Money in the Bank, I thought, was incredible. I didn't love the ending, quite frankly. That was one of those things where I was going, oh my gosh, if Otis wins, and I'm sure we'll talk about Otis eventually, because let's face it, my God, when you move Mandy Rose to Raw, I don't understand what the hell, like, the point is of him having the briefcase anymore, because she
maybe that's my high spot.
Yeah,
but we'll get to that later.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to that later. But God, you know, but like, even the Money in the Bank show at the end was a little bit screwy, because like you got Michael Cole sounding like he's sleeping through the entire thing. But no, I think that things are slowly getting better. I miss the fans. And the fandom isn't giving me the pops that I want. So I'm hoping that we don't get any major returns or anything until we get fans back. Although obviously it would be exciting. Because marking from your couch is different, obviously, than marking with a crowd. And, you know, one of the things that we'll get into later when it comes to debuting, like this show, is sometimes when the wrestler is a more known commodity, the excitement from the crowd is incredibly important. And again, not to throw things in, but Retribution would have been really interesting to hear a reaction from the crowd instead of a plant crowd, which was what they had, was just developmental wrestlers that they could throw into the fan spot that can hit the plexiglass, you know? So I'll let you go, my friend.
It's a hard nut to crack, because it's funny that you mentioned it. You felt WrestleMania was underwhelming. I actually really enjoyed this past WrestleMania, both nights. And I'm so glad they did 2 nights, because, I mean, let's be real. WrestleMania is the biggest wrestling show on the planet. I don't care what you say about WWE as a product, and not saying to you, but to any viewer.
No, absolutely.
You may not like WWE's product. You may think it's dumb and childish and stupid. It's the best and biggest wrestling show, WrestleMania, on the planet. Nothing touches it. Wrestle Kingdom is WrestleMania for us smarks, but Wrestle Kingdom's scope and how big it is will never touch WrestleMania. WrestleMania is a hot commodity. There you go. But when WWE did WrestleMania during a pandemic, they decided to split it over 2 nights, pre-record everything. Okay, let me see how this pans out. And contrary to popular belief, at least I thought so, I really dug it. I preferred the first night over the second night. I believe, because it's been a while. It's been 5 months.
Yeah.
5 long months since WrestleMania's happened. But I preferred that over over especially what we've been getting recently. My God. Especially in regards to WWE product. But that night, it showed me a few things. A, these pre-recorded matches can be really good if done correctly. Bray Wyatt versus John Cena was one of the better matches, segments of the year.
Yeah.
Undertaker,
gave us that NWO moment that we've always wanted.
Oh my God. It gave us that Cena heel turn that we will probably never get, but I'm so glad we got a little glimpse of it. I don't care. And again, I don't care what you think of John Cena. We all marked. Yes. Trust me. We never give up. We all marked.
Oh,
I lost my mind. AJ Styles and Undertaker. We got to see the Undertaker legitimately ride off into the darkness as the dead man would on his motorcycle after legitimately burying AJ Styles. So I couldn't. Yeah, I would have loved to see that match in front of a crowd, and that was the plan. And if the Last Ride documentary told us anything, that match was supposed to be in front of a crowd. And I would have lost my mind to see Undertaker v AJ Styles. That's a dream match that people have been asking for years, probably decades, and it'll probably never happen anymore, or not anymore. But that being said, that set the standard for WWE going forward. And I think they haven't gotten back there since.
No. And I mean, speaking of WrestleMania during a pandemic, is that the WrestleMania during the pandemic had such an impact on today's WWE.
Oh, yeah.
No jokes aside for Roman Reigns, man. I mean, I do not blame him for not participating in WrestleMania that early into it. It's serious stuff with him, but it opens the door for Bray Wyatt or for Braun Strowman to come in, win his first major wrestling championship. I don't think that Roman would have ever turned heel if it didn't happen.
Yeah.
What a way for him to come back. And
that was one of the few bright spots of this whole thing.
It was. And, I was so happy to see Braun win it. And who knows if he would have at this point if he didn't. And again, circumstances I don't love, obviously, that a person can't compete because of a very detrimental disease.
Exactly.
But to see Braun come out and beat Goldberg, right?
Goldberg, yes.
Hated that. Always hated it.
Why the hell did Goldberg beat Bray Wyatt?
Because
freaking Saudi Arabia of all places.
Well, let's face it. It's just these big former champions. They screwed over Kofi Kingston, no doubt. Which that might be leading into my my high point for later. But it's the way it happened. But like I don't. There was some good to come out of it. Clearly they had no clue who the hell was going to win Money in the Bank. And I don't think that anybody, when it comes to the pandemic and wrestling, I like to hit on a few points because Money in the Bank is my favorite pay-per-view of the year. Love the opportunity to create a new champion as long as they don't screw it over. Because at that point, what's the point? Now we have 2 chances to make sure, obviously, that it happens. And Asuka, I thought Asuka's way to win the championship was honestly one of the most beautiful moments I've ever watched. With Becky's pregnancy announcement. But
yes. Yeah. Another thing that happened during the pandemic. Lord.
It did. But let's face it, I don't think that the pandemic doesn't have an impact on bad writing. I mean, I don't mind Dominic rising through the cracks and becoming a WWE superstar. I thought it was going to happen eventually, but I'm so sick and tired of this Seth Rollins feud. But see, like there's stuff like that has nothing to do with the pandemic. And what does have to do with the pandemic is, and I'll leave my point of this is just, well, Thunderdome is interesting. I don't hate it. But my big thing with the pandemic is the crowd at this point would have been ripping Dominic to shreds because they would be so sick and tired of seeing him. Having no crowd there might be a good thing for his career.
Oh, wow. Well, just to touch on that, just to start, I think otherwise. I honestly think that the crowd probably would have embraced Dominic with open arms. Especially, I like seeing the Dominic things. Like, just like you, I'm tired of this Seth Rollins feud. It's gone on way too damn long. And now they're bringing in Murphy to have a bigger role with Rey Mysterio's 19-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Like, let's cool it a little bit. I know where y'all are going. Let's not do that. And they're doing the whole dad angle freaking 14 years later again. It only worked the first time because Eddie was there. Eddie's not here anymore.
Nope.
Let's not repeat that. And I think Dominic's been good.
Yeah.
He's exceeded my expectation.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And
I think that the crowd would have liked him to begin with, but as this goes on, they would have turned on him, like you said.
That's the deal. It sucks. It happens so much.
And he's losing.
Yeah.
He's losing everything. He's eating pins on Raw. Okay. I get what you're trying to do, at least what they're trying to do with Dominic Mysterio.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, let's not make his name Dominic Mysterio. We're not dumb. Come on. Second off, I hope he goes away for a while. Like Seth Rollins, when he whooped his ass, I think it was SummerSlam. Write him off TV. Have him come back as the popular theory, Prince Mysterio. I'm not going to act like that's my idea because it's not. But I saw someone say it on Reddit and I love it. Prince Mysterio. And he has a mask. He's a freaking luchador because that's what he's got to do. He's been leaning towards it in the last couple months. Damn, it's been months. But that's Exhibit A of storylines is going wrong. And like you said, bad writing is not an excuse, or not an excuse by the pandemic for poor ratings, because the ratings have been in the shitter. I don't know if we're gonna cuss on this program. Have been in the toilet since everything went to hell in March. Yeah. But a bright spot in professional wrestling, because I know we're gonna keep dragging. And by the way, there's still good things about WWE. Like SmackDown right now is fantastic. I think it's really good right now. Mm-hmm. Raw, on the other hand, no. Raw Underground blows.
Go away, Raw Underground. I feel like we'll touch more on a Raw Underground type thing in a future episode, because there's so much. I just spilled my water everywhere. There's so much to talk about with Raw Underground. Being it's the worst thing ever. But we talked about booking a Raw Underground tournament with older wrestlers, and Animal might show up on that show.
I hope to God, just a series of shoot fights. That'll be a thing. Like Nick told me about that. Still a little behind the curtain. Nick told me about that a couple days ago. I'm like, that's genius. We got to do it. So keep that in mind. Keep that in the back of your brain going forward on Wrestle Reel. We're definitely going to do a shoot Raw Underground-esque tournament, and we'll decide the victors right here on this show. But like I said, a bright spot for COVID and wrestling was All Elite Wrestling.
Yeah.
And really just the Wednesday night wars. I use war loosely because it's not a war. AEW is the most popular wrestling that comes on at 7 o'clock Eastern or 7 o'clock Central Time on Wednesdays. By far, look at the ratings and the demos.
Yep.
Simple as that. And what AEW is doing, they pivoted. Unlike WWE, they kept hauling. AEW pivoted. They acknowledged the pandemic. Of course, there's no fans, so they're going to acknowledge it at some point. But they said, we're scrapping all storylines from this point forward. Everything's brand new. Because a lot of people were stuck outside of the country. The Lucha Bros were in Mexico. Pac is still overseas. So El Triángulo del Muerte, whatever the hell it's called, that they formed, is not a thing anymore. Yeah. Now the Lucha Bros are with Eddie Kingston, which a great acquisition in AEW the last few months. Love Eddie Kingston, kicks ass, and at the time of this recording, he's facing Jon Moxley for AEW World Championship because AEW knows what's up.
Matt told me that. I was like, oh my gosh. Listen, I wouldn't say that that's rushing somebody into something.
No,
Kingston is a guy who people want to see, and like, you know, he's established. There are certain people that are not established that Cain Velasquez, and that they should not be throwing into championship matches, but that's besides the point. AEW.
AEW just, and I'll say this for better or for worse, AEW is for wrestling fans, not the casual fan that tunes into Raw and SmackDown and sometimes NXT, but it's for the marks.
Yes.
It's for us. We know who Eddie Kingston is. They don't have to explain who Eddie Kingston is. If Dominic Dijak goes to NXT, they're gonna repackage him, make him act, and they're gonna act like his prior history with Pro Wrestling Guerrilla didn't exist, or with any other indie didn't exist. And that's what WWE does. They repackage guys entirely. Keith Lee, same name, different dude. Simple as that.
Yeah.
But AEW, they keep the same guy. Eddie Kingston's still a savage. John Moxley, if anything, he just looks like Dean Ambrose, but acts like John Moxley when he was killing himself in CCW a decade ago.
Yep.
So AEW is for the wrestling fans, the hardcore fans that are literally putting the ring up at indie shows and taking it down at the end of each night.
Yep.
But and that's why I think they excelled at this whole pandemic thing. They were the first ones to change up the style of the program. They established the hard camera being towards the stage and not on the side like how we normally do it. And then WWE shortly changed the way so they can look like AEW. And they secluded themselves to, I believe it's called Daily Palace or Daily Plaza, wherever the hell it is, in Jacksonville, Florida. But they had their fans be the wrestlers. The rest of the roster that's not in the ring is at ringside, behind a barricade. And it's not just your developmental guys, because they don't have developmental. It's Colt Cabana. It's Sonny Kiss. It's freaking Taz. It's Lance Archer and Jake the Snake Roberts, who, by the way, he's an old man. He should not be in this type of situation, but he is, and he's fine.
Yep.
So AEW excelled at it. And like I said, they pivoted and they acknowledged the pandemic. Shit. Again, I'm sorry. Their champion significant other got coronavirus. And at the time she worked for WWE and he was held off TV for 2 weeks. They had to push back a title match between Moxley and Brian Cage because of it. But they straight up said he's out because, you know, some other companies don't know how to manage coronavirus. So that was a whole and I love the digs because WWE deserves them. I didn't like it at first, but now I rock with it. But now they're letting fans in. You got to wear your mask. I think they're doing temperature checks, but that's it. But they're letting fans in. Like it's like 10%, 10-15%. But fans are in this crowd nonetheless. Granted, it's September, and they easily go to shit. Easy.
Yeah,
but
they got to be careful with it for sure.
But they're slowly getting back into the rhythm of things. And when Chris Jericho came out a couple weeks ago to start Dynamite, and you heard the few fans sing to Judas by Fozzy, it just the little bit helped out so much, and it added to the broadcast.
Yeah.
And WWE just hasn't done that yet. I just think SmackDown's doing better on that side of things. Excuse me, because it's on Fox, and Fox, they won't let Vince do whatever the hell he wants. And I love what they're doing on that side, but AEW to me has done it perfectly. And regardless of what you think of, like the Matt Hardy stuff or what happened at All Out, because that was a little bit of a mess. But that wasn't a COVID thing. That was just a wrestler well-being thing, and Matt's fine, thank God. Yeah, no, really though. But it's something that all wrestling companies should look at, because I know the indies are kicking back up. I don't know if the indies by you are starting to do shows again. They're moving more towards other territory or other states that they do shows in than starting here. That one that I was talking about, AIW, I think that they were doing shows in another state, but I'm sure that eventually they're going to build up. And speaking of AIW, I will say something that I just kind of want to throw out there. I guess you could call it a high point, as they say, but if there's something that I'm impressed with AEW with, is that they'll take a talent, whether they are established or not, and see how well they're doing and just push them straight to the top. WWE is not going to do that, unfortunately, because first of all, I always think about it like this. They have too much talent to
push everybody, obviously, but there is such thing as good storytelling and good match telling that they're not doing.
Yeah.
MJF. I saw MJF before it at an AIW show.
Oh, I'm not jealous at all.
Well, it wasn't a match, but it was a segment. It was a segment with Colt Cabana, and it was a segment with Colt Cabana, and it was a paternity test because they kind of looked similar. And Colt Cabana was his dad. But it was so funny. I think they teamed together and MJF beat him up at the end or something like that. But
of course he did. He's the worst.
You know, I've seen it's interesting because I've seen Joey Janela, and when I was at that show, people were like, look out for Joey Janela's name because he's going to be brought up somewhere and he's going to be a star. Now AEW, I mean, he's doing okay, but like I've seen Eddie Kingston, I've seen MJF. I feel like AEW is pushing those people. Like let's face it, there's such an easy comparison for MJF in the WWE, and his name is Mike the Miz Mizanian. Love that guy. He's from around here. But
I would love
at the beginning of his career, do you think that they would have pushed the Miz as well as they're pushing MJF? No.
He was just the Diva Search guy.
Right. And I see so many parallels to MJF, to the Miz, that I can just totally, you know, it took such a long time for a character like the Miz to eventually become WWE champion. I think he should win it 5 more times by the end of his career. That's just me. But they're doing well. They're doing well with this. I know we've run a little bit over on this COVID talk, but
no. It's a recap of the last 6 months.
It is. So. Oh my gosh, we have so much still to talk about. I guess when it comes down to it.
And the next 2 points that we do, they're going
to be shorter.
Yeah, I mean, we'll it's our first show. We're shaking off the wrestling cobwebs. But just to wrap up the COVID bit, both shows they started off differently, and at a point like. Something had changed because the Thunderdome with WWE, I think it's a good idea. Just the execution isn't the best.
Like when they have Chris Benoit.
Yes. When you had the Clan guy, the KKK guy pop up, that wasn't great. So that's just, I mean, it was bound to happen. People were like, oh, what's the first thing that's going to happen? Benoit. Oh, fantastic. So I appreciate the effort. I respect them for trying. The only thing I do know, and I can say for sure that WWE did correctly throughout the whole 6 months is NXT. They did it in your house. TakeOver 30 ruled.
Yes.
We're getting Fatal 4-Way Iron Man matches on Tuesdays because of basketball playoffs. And literally, I think NXT should just go to Tuesday. Come on, guys. What's the holdup? You're losing the ratings war every Wednesday. Go to Tuesday. It'll be better for everyone. Literally everyone involved will benefit.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's an ego thing. You put your best show against your competition. I don't understand how they're not streaming on Twitch for that reason. Just kidding. Impact. But it's just like, no, we do.
Another thing, the releases happened.
Yeah. Okay, we could keep going with this because I was going to ask like what you thought of SummerSlam. Quite frankly, that's another big pay-per-view.
Yeah, SummerSlam. Well, here, did you want to say something before?
Well, the releases. I guess we could start with that since you brought that point up because that's a very important point. I don't want to get lost on. Well, let's face it. We knew what was going to end up happening, and a lot of it did. Was that AEW was going to be like, "Hey, come to us," and then they did. Rusev, you got the tag team.
What's the nuts? Are you talking about Gallows and Anderson going to Impact?
Well, Gallows and Anderson went to Impact, man. Impact swooped up so many wrestlers.
Everything.
You got Hawkins, you got the Good Brothers, you got one of the things that like I was incredibly happy with was they brought the Motor City Machine Guns back. Now that has nothing to do with anything, but I love the Motor City Machine Guns. You got Rhino and Slater back together. You got such interesting storylines when it comes down to it. Eric Young is back in Impact.
He's their champ right now.
Yeah. EC3 is back in Impact. Which good for him because God, oh my gosh, they were not doing anything.
What the hell happened?
They blew
it off? Who did he piss off?
They blew it. They blew it so much.
That was their guy. That should have been their guy.
Yeah.
Ethan Carter III, EC3. Change his damn name. Don't call him EC3. It's dumb. He should have been your guy.
Yeah. He could be like a Drew McIntyre. Comes back, proves himself. But like, yeah, I was impressed by Impact scooping up all those guys. You got Zack Ryder going by Matt Cardona, very taken way seriously. And it's just so intriguing to see so many different people. I love it. I am so happy to see people get opportunities other places. You know, I wish that it worked out in the WWE. Revival.
FTR, baby. FTR.
You know, getting that dream match that we always wanted with them, with the Young Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, sorry, I'm drawing blanks like crazy.
No, you're fine. You're fine. There's
but,
a lot to keep track of because that's how many releases happened.
Yeah, it was insane.
They happened like crazy. And like you said, Impact cleaned house. They thought, oh, hey, guys, you guys want to come wrestle for us? Yeah. And they all went with the exception of Cardona. At least, okay, that's the funny thing with Matt Cardona, formerly known as Zack Ryder. He isn't all elite. He hasn't gotten that all elite graphic yet, which I'm like, I wonder what's going on with him. But Rusev Miro is the best man. So that was really fun to see on Dynamite on a couple Wednesdays ago because that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I love the fact that these guys are getting opportunity, like you said. But the biggest thing to me, at least out of this wave of releases, is that they didn't have to happen. WWE is a $1 billion corporation. Right. Vince McMahon is worth $1 billion. And you're telling me during a pandemic when people are struggling already as it is, you're going to release 10, 20, 15 people. They just released freaking what's his nuts? I'm forgetting his name, but they're still releasing people. They're releasing like other talent that aren't wrestlers. They're releasing producers. They're releasing social media.
They released Fit Finley. How could you release Fit Finley?
Yeah,
they released Briscoe. They released so many like just mainstay talents that you want to see do well. I understand. Listen, it was so great. One of the things that happened during the pandemic that clearly wasn't a pandemic impacted thing was that freaking Abyss showed up on Raw or on SmackDown. And he's one of their backstage producers now. So I'm very glad that they didn't, bite the bullet and get rid of him. Because here's the thing is that like he's a Royal Rumble appearance that I need as Abyss. But we got Joseph Park on SmackDown. But
I'll lose my mind if Abyss shows up.
Right?
In the match. I'll lose it.
And he's got to stay around a little bit after that. But
wrestle AJ Styles in a WWE ring and I'll lose. And people will pay.
Listen, if he continues, they didn't do enough afterwards with Joseph Park. If they pissed him off enough, then we were going to get something there. But SummerSlam. SummerSlam. And you know what? To one more thing about the pandemic overall, and then we'll get into SummerSlam and wrap this up. Yeah. Sami Zayn is such an interesting thing when it comes to the pandemic because he leaves, but he has that like CM Punk-esque return out of nowhere. I didn't see his name on any of the dirt sheets, and obviously when it comes down to it, the dirt sheets are only getting what they see, and rumors. So, but yeah, Sami Zayn back, hoping honestly that he keeps his championship.
He never lost it.
Right.
Never lost it.
Let's talk SummerSlam for just a second. I thought the show was all right. I thought Roman Reigns coming back was incredible.
Roman coming back for SummerSlam stole the whole show, and it made the show better, especially just by his antics. His presence would have been like, oh, hey, like Roman's back. That's cool because, he had the whole leukemia thing. He was immunocompromised, so he was feeling freaked out for good reason.
Right.
And then he comes back for SummerSlam at the end of the main event between Wyatt and Strowman. And he's like, oh, hey, guys, with my Wreck Everyone and Leave t-shirt. And we're like, what's that? And he comes and spears the Fiend. And we're like, oh, and he calls people the B word. And he's spearing everybody. Everyone's getting business. And the following Friday, he lines up with Paul Heyman, and the world crumbles, and everyone cries because it's great. And what else was on that? Was McIntyre Orton on that card too?
It was. It wasn't It was underwhelming. I'll be honest. I mean, like,
because why put
with the way that Orton's like hot streak was going, you'd be like, oh, that's a perfect main event, and he wins it, and he doesn't. And I want Drew to hold the championship forever, so please don't take it off of him so early. But it's like, and we also got Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. What a match! I guess it was the table spot that fucked everything up. Sorry, pardon my French, but it's just like
you're fine.
Like, it's just like the fact that the table would not break the entire match pissed me off, because it's like, oh my gosh, that was a good match. I'm not gonna lie, and that has like the emotion to be that great match that like is important for your SummerSlam, and the table not breaking. I don't know why it bothers me so much, but it does.
It's the little things, man. Especially like in regards to McIntyre and Orton, McIntyre's been a great champ, a great babyface for the pandemic so far. He somehow is making it work. Oh my God, all the respect to you. You're doing great, Drew. And then Randy Orton's been literally killing people on Raw, kicking them in the head every week. And it's the best thing ever. We're all loving it. It's great. The best Randy's been in years.
Yep.
Probably a decade. The best Randy's been in a decade since he did the same gimmick in 2009.
Yeah.
And but now he's a better promo. He's a significantly better promo, because he's even talked about it publicly. He said like, oh, because that's longevity. You got to keep yourself relevant, and doing it on the mic's the way to go. So Randy got better on the mic. Right. Here we are, bang. Now he's doing the stuff for Ric Flair, kicking him in the head, kicking Shawn Michaels in the head, doing all this crazy stuff. And and Edge coming back. That part of WrestleMania a little too long, but I loved it. But the fact that he had to bounce back from that, because he was supposed to do that whole program with Edge.
Right.
Saw that panned out. But Randy's still relevant as hell, and he's still doing a kick-ass job. One of the brighter spots from WWE side during this whole thing. But at SummerSlam, I get it. You want to have your top babyface against your top heel. But their paths should not have crossed, at least this soon. That was my problem with the match. The match was fine. Having Orton lose was like, what? You should, and I get it. You want to have Drew win so you can continue this momentum. But if anything, you should have Orton win. Have Drew can do something else in the meantime.
I don't want it though. I want him to keep the championship.
No, and I get it. But I would have had Orton win the thing, because if anyone needed the win, it was Orton, in my opinion. Because Orton got like stunted a little bit. He was off TV, and it was like, oh God, they messed it up. They messed up one of the best things in wrestling. And I mean, now he's back and he's fine again. Now he's killing Keith Lee, which those matches have been pretty freaking cool. Keith Lee, Randy Orton.
Yeah, it's for Keith Lee to have beat Randy Orton. I was like, all right, I'm in. Yeah,
clean.
I'm in. I'm in on. I mean, I've always been in on Keith Lee. I love Keith Lee. I loved Keith Lee when that another small pandemic thing, and obviously again I keep bringing more into it, but like when that match was low-key spoiled for me that he won the championship by another wrestler taking pictures and posting them, you idiot.
Damn.
Like, because I was like, oh my gosh, Keith Lee, he's gonna win it, he's gonna be double champ, he's probably gonna drop the North American title, because why the hell would he hold it? And he did. But I was like, oh, I love Keith Lee so much. And then Keith Lee won. And then Keith Lee is on a hot streak. I hear he's going to turn heel soon. I'm not surprised. Maybe he'll be the leader of the group we're going to talk about next. But it's just, I love Keith Lee. Give me more Keith Lee. But I agree. Randy Orton. And other than that, like SummerSlam was underwhelming. We already talked about, Randy. We talked about Dominic and Seth Rollins. Bayley versus Asuka was don't care about that as much. MVP.
Sasha and Bayley's another. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I would have forgot. They're another great bright spot in this thing too. They thrived with no fans.
They do, and Apollo and MVP. I'm happy they finally pushed Apollo, but it looks like that stopped. And then you got Street Profits and Andrade and Garza. Would have been the perfect spot to end that with Garza and Andrade, and they didn't do that. So it's just like, it's little things that I love that. Right. I love that Asuka battled twice. I love Asuka. I think she's amazing. But yeah. So SummerSlam, meh. Money in the Bank, great until the end. Especially when speaking of the AJ and Undertaker match when he walks into that room and he sees that picture and he's like haunted by it. That was great.
AJ's so good when he'll commit to any bit and he'll make it 10 times better because it's so damn good.
I guess we eventually need to talk about this whole mess with Otis. I don't know how it's gonna end. I think I know how it's gonna end because Roman's champion, but like but like what a wasted Money in the Bank. But yeah, so hey, we got through our first section. I'm
so glad you mentioned at least like Keith had a lot of potential, especially when he won both championships and a kick-ass match against Adam Cole. If you have not seen it, my God, one of the better matches WWE's put on this year. Because NXT is the go-to WWE wrestling show. If you want good wrestling, go watch that. Because there's a ton we didn't cover, but I guarantee we'll talk about the people we forgot to mention over the course of this show because we just love so many different things about wrestling, so many different people. But you know, we can move on. But like you said, Keith Lee was supposed to be this whole thing. He was supposed like, is he going to turn heel? Ooh, he was teasing towards it. And then they brought Mia Yim into this thing, and it's like, oh, Mia Yim, like they're dating IRL, haha, because kayfabe's not real anymore. And apparently they had other things for her, which leads us to the 2 count. Mia Yim shows up on Raw. Let me rephrase. This group shows up on Raw one day, and it's just like weird, funky camera movements. Oh, snap! And they're all in black and masks, and they're cussing because they're censoring everything. It's like, whoa, they're swearing,
and there's 100 of them at one point,
and there's like 50 of them Raw, and they look different every week because they have different people doing it every week, and we're like, who the hell is this group? And then the one time they're like, oh, I think commentary's like, oh, they're called Retribution. Like, oh no, this is what we're doing now. We're doing a bunch of nerds being against the system, brother. Especially with how everything is in the country right now. Is this appropriate to do a group called Retribution? But
and then it gets even worse because let's see how they end up looking in the end without their cloth masks. And oh my Jesus Christ!
Oh my God!
Oh, gross! Yuck! What is that? Why are they Mad Max? Why are they Bane? Why? Just what's with the oh? Okay. Well, we finally get who they are. You've got Dominic Dijakovic, Mia Yim, Mercedes Martinez, Dio Madden, and Shane Thorne. Oh, look at them! Look at them! Look at them!
So, I have that picture one more time.
I will pull up that picture one more time.
So just for reference, that's Mercedes Martinez on your far left, Mia Yim in the Jason looking mask. That's Shane Thorne. Dominic Dijakovic, he's in the front with the red thing. He looks like Pennywise minus the white paint. And Dio Madden, or at least the guy formerly known as Dio Madden. But go ahead.
Oh, let's. I'm looking it up because I cannot do justice as to how just. Oh, this went from being really intriguing. Well, this went from being, oh, it's the Nexus. Oh, it's the Shield. Oh, it's Retribution. To, okay. I mean, like, listen, there's more members. Who's the leader? Is CM Punk going to come back? Oh my God, people, like, really? And then it's like, and then WWE's Twitter reveals the name of the three men in this group.
I'm so scared.
And we have,
can't say with a straight face.
Slapjack, T-Bar,
oh my God,
and Mace. Now, I think T-Bar is Dijakovic, and he's the one that I want to. Well, okay, Mia Yim clearly has a career. Dio Madden, this could be good for, because he was an announcer before.
He's trying the hardest of all of them, 1,000%.
On the other hand, you got my boy over here. You got Bane. You got Dijakovic. And let's face it, there's two things that are in this group that make me think that there's a possibility that Keith Lee could be involved. And it's Mia Yim and Dijakovic, because Dijakovic was his boy in NXT.
Yep.
Mia Yim is his girl in real life. I don't know. But I'm just like, first of all, please, for the love of God, do not put a Bane mask on Keith Lee.
Please, no.
And call him like Cat with like a K or something like that because he's Keith Lee. I don't know. It's because they got the worst fucking names. Pardon my French. Ever in this stable, and it went from being somewhat intriguing to like, oh my lord, I am so ready for this not to be a thing anymore. Get it over with, because like I said, you're ruining Dijakovic, man. He could be WWE champion, and maybe for all we know, oh my lord, he's going to be as T-Dog or whatever. But I'm just like, this went from being intriguing to like the worst thing I have ever seen before in my entire life. And I am going to be waiting on end now that we know who they are for Adam Blampied to book this for me. And maybe we need to. I don't know. It's just like, yeah. Okay. I need your opinion on my boy Slapjack.
Retribution was something I did not rock with from the jump because I saw the similar, they did what the Nexus did, but they look like the Shield. Okay, yeah. Fantastic. I will stay optimistic to see where this goes. And for months, they dragged this on. They do the same thing. First of all, they popped up on Raw and SmackDown, which was the worst. And it kind of made no sense because, I mean, why not attack NXT too? Like, what? If anything, I remember now. Because it's all NXT people. We're not stupid. Next,
well, people thought that the Miz was underneath one of the masks, and
he might have been one of them just for fun. But they tell us, well, they didn't tell us. I think it got leaked on like Pro Wrestling Sheet or something. That Retribution is going to be Raw exclusive. Are we giving these people contracts? Yeah, we are. Oh, what? They're destroying your set every week. This makes no sense. We're rewarding this behavior. We're not dumb. Like, we're as wrestling fans, they may think we're stupid, but we're not. So you want us to like these people or hate these people? Like, what? What's the gimmick? What is this? And then they unmask on Raw this past Monday, and you were being attentive to the program. I was not, because I choose not to watch Raw. Because that third hour is an abomination. It should not exist, and that show's way too damn long.
To be fair, I was on Twitter when I realized that it was going on, so I was also not as attentive as you are. I follow it as much as I possibly can on there because I need to know. Like, here's the thing: is that if there's anything that this era of wrestling, because this has nothing to do with the pandemic. They might have been planning this already. I think that Raw Underground came from the pandemic, but Raw Underground is the worst thing I've ever seen. And I'll be honest with you, because I don't know how this is going to end. Retribution might be the worst to come of it too. And it's this, it's the masks. It's It's Slapjack. It's T-Bone or whatever it's
T-Bar.
Thank you, T-Bar. It's ruining the career of Dominic Dijakovic and Mia Yim. Ugh.
And that's the thing that pisses me off. So the wrestling dirt sheets have figured these people out weeks ago.
Right.
So us Smarks, we know, let me rephrase, Smarks are the worst. Us Marks, we know who these people are. It's no secret. If a guy's 7'5" and he's in black, it's Dominic Dijakovic.
Uh-huh.
We're not dumb. Oh, there's a girl with blue hair. Who could that be, Chris? It's Mia Yim. Okay, great. And they haven't been on NXT in weeks. Why would you write off Dijakovic, Yim? Thorne hasn't been on NXT, relevant NXT for a while.
Right.
Freaking Martinez and Dio Madden, right?
Well, Dio Madden, you could see the hair and be like, oh, well, there's Dio.
Plus, he got murdered on Raw by Brock Lesnar a couple months or before the pandemic started.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I completely forgot.
That's how they wrote him off freaking Raw, because he was doing fine on commentary, but I guess it wasn't good enough.
T-Bar
had to kill him. Yeah, he had to die on Raw because Brock had to murder him. But I think this is what's going to happen. Or one of two things. A, Vince is going to stick to his guns and see how long he can do this until the fans come back and annihilate them for this. Or B, they see the social media reaction, how we're all like, hey, pointing at them, all these nerds, and they change something about them. They take the masks off, make Dijakovic wipe that makeup off his face, and they do something cool and make his name Dominic Dijakovic. Make his name Dio Madden. Make his name Shane Thorne. That's the best way you can approach this because we know they're from NXT. We all watch the same shows every week. Like, again, be aware of your audience. The people who are watching Raw and SmackDown and NXT are the same people every week because of the pandemic.
Well, let's face it. At the end of the day, in the future, are we going to be looking at the WWE history books and go, one of my favorite WWE champions of all time was Slapjack. Slapjack was the greatest WWE champion ever. No, we're not. No, we're not going to look at it and go, T-Bar, oh my goodness. You know, there's a perfect analogy for this, and I'm going to steal it from this tweet that I just saw. These all sound like the names of people who would be on Dwight Goodman's team in freaking dodgeball. It's terrible. It is the worst thing that I have ever seen. I will keep saying this till I'm blue in the face, and if I keep talking this fast, I'm probably going to be. They miffed this up so badly because, like, I was so intrigued at one point. I'm like, where is this going? Where is this going? And I don't know where it's going now, especially like, oh my Lord, did it go from me not knowing where it was going to me really not knowing where it's going? Because like Slapjack, you know, what's kind of intriguing about it is that, like, if they had 50 members at one point, which obviously that's an overstatement, you could split them between Raw and SmackDown if you really need a presence of Retribution on. Sorry, go on. Please talk. I don't want to talk about Retribution.
And another thing to add on to what you're saying, they're doing a draft in the next month. Within the next calendar month, at least presumably, they're doing a draft. Is Retribution going to be freaking drafted? Oh, so we're going to draft these anarchists in World Wrestling Entertainment? Oh,
hell yeah, they are, dude. Oh, for sure, dude. I don't know if I don't think they're going to go to SmackDown. They're going to build this up on Raw as much as they possibly can.
Fox is probably like, no, keep that garbage over there. We don't want.
Oh, this is what, you know what? Oh, this is going to be what the fans are looking for. When their actual leader shows up, and it's CM Punk in a Bane mask. It's just what we all wanted.
Agree to that.
Was for CM Punk to come back in a Bane mask and be called oh gosh, what else can we do here? Anthrax or something like that. We could just have him come back and be like, this is our leader. This is Pesticide, our leader. Because we have, I don't know. I'm just thinking of the worst possible thing that we possibly can do.
But like, that's what they're doing too. They're putting names in the hat and picking them out like Slapjack. Like, that's so stupid. That's so dumb. They were being laughed at, and they've had the nerve to not tell us who Martinez and Yim's names are. They did not tell us a single word, and I bet we'll find out on Monday. It's gonna be like a nightstand and train track, but it's gonna be so stupid. And what a missed opportunity! Another missed opportunity for NXT call-ups. I feel so bad for all of these people because they're all talented in whatever aspect. Even Shane Thorne, who wasn't really prominently featured on NXT, he's still good at what he does. And this is how he's being treated. Like, we talked about this in the show notes prior. Mm-hmm. Like when we were talking about things for the show this week, I had mentioned like, NXT has a lot of hits and a lot of misses. Look at the hits. Kevin Owens, hit. Sami Zayn, whether you think of it or not, he's still relevant. Yeah. I would consider him a hit. Finn Balor, yes. Seth Rollins, the Shield, just the Shield, yes. Mm-hmm. But then you get people like Retribution. It's like, what a stark contrast from what the hell we've seen so far.
I mean, Jesus, sorry. The jury's out on Nakamura. A lot of I know. I'm just dying halfway through the show. The jury's out on Nakamura. You know, you have people that they've released that were from NXT, but I mean, this is not the way to go about it. All right, here, one more thing for this segment. Yes. Let's predict their names. So here's what I'm going to say. Here's how I imagine that they came up with Slapjack, T-Bar, and Mace. So here's how they came up with that. They found the only Denny's that was open up during the pandemic. Somebody was eating pancakes, so they made flapjack into slapjack. T-bar was one of those crappy chicken steak things for a T-bone steak. Mace was whatever was inside of somebody's purse at the time. Okay. So I'm thinking that we've got probably have. I'm going to go with a duo here. We're going to have salt and pepper shaker is going to be the other two.
Oh God, I like salt and pepper. Salt and pepper shaker.
Yes, no, it's got to be the shakers. Or you could have like maybe they were at an IHOP and they went with like blueberry syrup and strawberry syrup. Maybe we have maple. I don't know. Maple, that could be one.
I'm gonna guess. I'm just gonna guess two names. I'm not gonna assign one because I want to be as close as I can. I'm gonna say wrench.
Ooh.
And I'm gonna say Nor.
Nor.
N-O-R. Nor. Nor and wrench.
Norench. Oh boy. Norench juice. All right. But let's hey, listen, for any of you that are watching out there, if you have a guess as to what their name is, please leave it in the comment section below. We would love to hear your reactions. And that's the thing with the show, especially when we go live. If you're watching, you like what you see, please continue to interact with us because we love to see it. We will definitely, if we get any comments on this episode, we'll be reading them off in the next one. But that said, this is let's move on to number 3.
So the third of our 3 count is going to be our top 3 debuts. Now, this is up for interpretation. Mm-hmm. We have interpreted this. Maybe it's your top 3 favorite. Maybe your top 3 best. Top 3 memorable to you. Because let's be real. We're 220-somethings. We haven't seen all of professional wrestling history. So we're just going to talk about our favorite / best / memorable to us debuts. And Nick, do you have any honorable mentions before we begin talking about debuts?
I, in fact, do. A few.
And if we have any overlap, I will. If, say, for example, you say Hulk Hogan, we're not probably not gonna say Hulk Hogan. But hypothetically, if you say Hulk Hogan, that I will talk briefly, but I will reserve my big judgment, my big points, until I mention Hulk Hogan. You know what I mean? You muted your mic, homie.
Great. I unplugged it. I'm very sorry.
You're fine. So go ahead, hit me with those honorable mentions.
Couple of honorable mentions here. Obviously, I'm going to leave a controversial honorable mention at the top. I did not put Y2J on my list, even though I think it was impressive. I did not put Goldberg on my list, though, again, impressive enough. Modern wise, I thought that they blew Rousey's. I thought that they blew Rousey's. I'm going to be honest. Like, it could have been better. They stayed on 3 wrestlers. It's funny enough that I say this because when I get to my list, they stayed on 3 wrestlers for way too long. We didn't get any payoff for the music, and it was just really awkward, even though we all kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah. When it came, though, was awesome, though.
It was cool. It was cool. I thought that, again, I thought Cain Velasquez they blew that too. I will go back to the Cain Velasquez thing too much, and I'm very sorry about that. But
no, you're fine.
My true honorable mention was just something that I enjoyed, but unfortunately their careers went absolutely nowhere, though I thought that his heel work was pretty good. Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy, Big Cass.
I thought his government name. You said Colin Cassidy. That's awesome.
I thought that their debut was pretty sweet when they were calling out they were calling out Team 3D. Yeah. Their careers never went anywhere. It would have been perfect for them to slap the tag team titles on him, but they threw him away too early. But that's my honorable mention. How about you, my friend?
I have one. I mean, like you mentioned, like before we started doing this, there are some that we weren't either present to watch, but they're cool nonetheless. So that's why I have to say The Undertaker and Kane. 2 that you can't go without mentioning debuts without mentioning them, and how freaked out Mark Calloway was thinking he'd come out as the egg at Survivor Series. So we can't go without mentioning those. But my honorable mention that I got to see on pay-per-view, I didn't watch it live as I would have killed to be at this show. Royal Rumble 2016 had it had the worst kept secret in professional wrestling. And I wrote it down because I'm a big writer guy. AJ Styles as my honorable mention. I look, Nick, we haven't known each other for too long, so I'm gonna tell you this one little quick story. So I was with all my homies back in Indiana. We all got together for the 2016 Royal Rumble. My favorite show of the year. It's my favorite pay-per-view of all time. I love, and God, yes. And I can't. We'll talk. I guarantee we'll talk more Rumble, especially when Rumble time comes. But I love the Royal Rumble so much. It's the most exciting pay-per-view. I think this past one is incredible at freaking Minute Maid. Like, they've done some incredible shows. 16 was for the belt because of the storyline that was in place. Roman was number 1. Yeah, whatever. Number 3 was AJ Styles making his WWE debut in Orlando, Florida, where TNA Impact famously shot from. Yeah. So every fan there already knew AJ was there. And it was incredible to see. I marched so hard. I think I had an out-of-body experience. I was just like, I was summoned. It's almost, if God could have said to me, Chris, it's time. It's like, okay, cool. I got to see AJ debut. I'm good to go. So my honorable mention, AJ Styles. It was a hard cut. It was a really hard cut. But my other 3, I think, I prefer over this one. But my God, what a freaking debut!
Damn. Right. We'll get back to that. Yeah. So I'll go with my number 3. My number 3 is a guy who, unfortunately, he's about to do a little bit. He's got one of those behind his. He's got one of those behind his belt. It was an NXT debut.
Oh.
It was one of the greatest entrance theme songs of all time.
Ooh.
And this is a guy that, quite frankly, when I heard he was coming, I wasn't sure. I didn't know. And then I started to research Shinsuke Nakamura a little bit more. That is a personal pick for me because of the entrance, because of the theatrics, because of the crowd. I thought that was one of the most outstanding WWE debuts ever. I thought when he showed up, and I think prior to that, his music was debuted, because I guess in honorable mention, I'd throw Bobby Roode onto that list because I love Glorious Domination. It's my favorite entrance, but again, hasn't done anything. Nakamura, at least I can say, has had an impact so far, and I really hope to God that he wins a world title at some point, because he should have by now. But yeah, Shinsuke Nakamura, number 3. The electricity from the crowd was booming. The already having a hint of his entrance music and just hearing it in front of the crowd and hearing him sing it, it got me excited for that eventual WrestleMania moment. And a debut on SmackDown, I'll even throw that into there, though it didn't. I would choose his NXT. His Impact debut. I'd choose his NXT debut before I would choose his SmackDown debut, main roster debut, because though he brought the violinist, there's no better way to hear that entrance music, but he didn't do anything in that debut. This one, he had one of the most outstanding matches that I have ever seen in my entire life against Sami Zayn. And I fell in love with Shinsuke Nakamura the second that he came out to that music. So that's my number 3.
Everything you just said, it's like my love language. Shinsuke Nakamura's debut at TakeOver Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad you mentioned the match. Sami Zayn versus Shinsuke Nakamura is probably my favorite match of the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Or at least it's my favorite match of me being a hardcore wrestling fan, because that's when I realized, like, I love this sport so much. And that match is so good. And it was Sami Zayn's swan song.
Yeah.
From NXT. He went to WrestleMania the next day. Oh, man, that match is so good. That's a great one. That's a really, really good one. Because they have been hyping him up for weeks. And he shows up at Dallas, and he's like the best thing ever. Oh, yeah. God. Yes. Yes. That's a great one. I didn't even think of Nakamura. That's a great one. My number 3. So I mentioned when we started doing this segment, some of these aren't the best, Not my favorites, but they're memorable nonetheless. And when these guys debuted, I had no idea what the hell was happening because I was still real novice at the time to professional wrestling. I thought this was real. So, spoiler alert, it's not. But my number 3 pick is the Nexus.
I got that from see. Listen, we start to share these little context clues, and I think that we're gonna guess our picks. But no, yeah.
The Nexus, I remember watching the Nexus debut. I believe the match was John Cena versus CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on Raw, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then these guys come out of nowhere wearing these T-shirts and these armbands. I'm like, what? Like, who are these nerds? Literal nerds with the end of the chest. And the match ended in the DQ. They all hit their finisher on John Cena. I'm like, what's happening? They beat up CM Punk. I'm like, what's going on? They beat up Jerry Lawler. Daniel Bryan chokes Justin Roberts with a tie, and chokes him with a tie. And everything, they're ripping up the ring, they're taking the ropes off. The fans are in awe. I literally wish I was in that building watching this happen, because everyone was like, what? And the broadcast it ended after all that. And I remember watching this like, what happened? What's going on? And I was dying to wait till next Raw. And just to see where some of those guys went. Like, I know some of those guys didn't really do anything, but I mean, ultimately, freaking Wade Barrett, now he's doing commentary in NXT. Daniel Bryan got fired, but he came back not too long afterwards. Yeah. Darren Young became a real advocate for WWE in regards to LGBTQ+, because of his sexuality. Freaking Skip Sheffield was Ryback. Whether you like him or not, he still remained for a while. Husky Harris, he's the Fiend now on freaking SmackDown every week. So
Heath Slater has kids. Like,
Heath Slater got kids. And Michael Tarver, I don't know where you're at, homie. I hope you're doing well. But the Nexus, what an incredible debut. One of the biggest missed opportunities in WWE history. They had talk about Retribution, to go back to that for a second. Like, this was Retribution if it was cool. Yeah. The Nexus were cool. And they had them lose everything. Everything. Within 6 months, they were irrelevant. And this could have been a new regime of WWE, at least for a year or something. They could have broke them up later, but my God, what a run. What a rush by freaking Nexus. And I mean, their debut is probably the best thing they've ever done. So my number 3 is Nexus for all those reasons and more.
And I couldn't agree with you more, man. Though I'll be honest, and it's funny because I picked up one of the older WWE games and I'm like, Barrett could have been like booked into a top face. He could have been anything, honestly, and they blew it. Justin Gabriel is what, Justin Gabriel, I built up for an entire year in a feud with The Rock and had him win the World Heavyweight Championship. Very improbable, but still. But like Wade Barrett, I thought, and though, I don't know, do you think that Daniel Bryan would have had the career that he had if that didn't happen? I don't know.
I think at the time when they first debuted, Wade Barrett had the most upside.
Right.
But Daniel Bryan, obviously, bit more time. He was the most successful of all of them, but it took him getting beloved by the fans, getting booked incorrectly, and then the Yes Movement happening. So it took a while, but Wade Barrett at the time, most upside by far.
Yeah, and it's like I wish that he would have had a world championship in him. Even if it was as Bad News Barrett, because Bad News Barrett was the greatest thing to ever happen to wrestling at one point for me.
It was so awesome, so funny.
It was so great. And I guess that moves on to my number 2. You're watching Raw.
Paint the picture for me.
This was, I think it had to be early 2000s Raw. Mm-hmm. Booker T is talking to Coach, and he's pissed. Mm-hmm. He's going off, and he's going off. And then the camera just starts to pan into Booker T, and he's turning around with the most shocked look on his face I've ever seen. I'm like, what's going on? Now, take it for granted, I did not watch this live, but I was it refreshed my memory today to see. And I think that I'm going by what I think I would have felt when Eric Bischoff showed up on Monday Night Raw. Because it got an iconic, tell me I did not just see that from Booker T. And let's face it, Eric Bischoff is one of the most iconic figures in wrestling history. Whether you like him or not, I love the guy.
That shit-eating grin that he always
That
had.
shitty...
Yeah.
Friggin', to see the competitor of Vince McMahon show up in the company in such a big role, I loved it. He's such a force to be reckoned with. I mean, we're even seeing him in AEW right now. But that moment right there, if I was watching that live and I was around this age, not when I was younger, because I would have been like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah,
why is he smiling? I would have freaked the hell out. That would have been the most marquee that I got of all time. So I would have been like, holy crap, it's Eric Bischoff. What the hell?
He was on freaking Nitro a month ago.
Yeah. And it's like, for them to have done it to Booker T, there's nobody better. And it's just like, seeing Eric Bischoff there was incredible. Loved it. That's my number 2.
Damn, Eric Bischoff, one of the best authority figures in wrestling history, one of the most infamous characters in wrestling history. Like you said, whether you like him or not, he's a big part of it. His run with WCW and going into WWE. They even brought him back recently and within the last few years. So he's still on good terms with Vince, which is good. And he went to AEW and did some cool stuff for them. So Eric Bischoff, that's a great one. Eric Bischoff's another good one because he's one of the most polarizing wrestling characters ever.
That's right.
And he made it out of the fart box that was late WCW. And he went to the competitor and excelled at it. So, damn, it's another good one. My number 2, it might have happened a couple years before that. So let me paint this picture for you.
All right.
The year is 1999. The Rock is in the ring cutting a promo because The Rock is king promo. He would be like, do you smell? Doing this whole gimmick, rocking and literally rocking, doing this whole thing.
Wrong one.
Yeah, Canada. Doing this whole thing. The Rock's he's doing this whole shtick, and he's in one of the smarkiest towns to do wrestling in America, Chicago, Illinois, right in my backyard. And you've been getting teases for weeks of this save us. Who's saving us? What the hell? And in Chicago in August in 1999, The Rock's in the ring. The lights go down. This epic Titantron starts to play. And then someone tells us to break the walls down. Lights come back up. It's Chris Jericho doing the thing with his hair and the little bun or the little ponytail that he had.
Yep.
He's like, "Welcome to Raw is Jericho," and people are losing their minds because it's like it's the guy from freaking Nitro. Like he's the cruiserweight guy. Like that's Chris Jericho, and people were going nuts. And to this day, yes, I was 2 years. I was 1.5, going to be 2 when Chris Jericho debuted in WWF at the time. Mm-hmm. But this was the debut of one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and in my favorite arena of all time. And I'm so upset I wasn't alive to witness it, because it's a moment that will forever live in WWE history. It's one of the best debuts WWE's ever had. One of the most electrifying, with the most electrifying man in the ring already. Mm-hmm. You had an electrifying debut. And Chris Jericho, he is one of the best to ever do it. He's his longevity, his in-ring style, his character work. I mean, it all started in Canada, but it really slingshotted to superstardom in 1999 at the Allstate Arena. And I know people that were at that show, and they described to me the feeling when Chris Jericho came out, and I'll forever envy them for being in that arena. But oh my God, that day changed wrestling. At least it changed WWF for the better.
Yeah.
And without that day, Chris Jericho isn't where he is now. So my number 2 is Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho, one of my favorites.
Listen,
one of my top 5
somebody
favorites
I couldn't keep off this list, but I get it. All right, let me paint another picture for you, my friend.
Your number 1
My
favorite,
number 1
memorable debut.
That's right. So I am in Chicago, Illinois. I gather a group of my friends together in 2016 for the Royal Rumble. Oh, wait. AJ Styles is my number 1 favorite wrestling debut of all time. Now, let me explain to you why. When I was a young warthog, all right. When I was younger, I was not allowed to stay up late to watch wrestling.
Oh.
So that was when I was really getting into it, was when I was in 4th, 5th grade, because my younger cousin was into it. And I was like, and I kind of did a lot of the same things that he did. We did a lot together.
This sounds awfully familiar, by the way. Having hardcore.
I'm young Nick is searching the TV and he sees wrestling is on the weekends during the day. I'm like, holy crap. If I could just get over the fact that it's on Telemundo and it's Monday Night Raw, I could probably watch this and enjoy it. And then I flip a few channels later and I see Spike TV.
Yeah.
And I watch myself some total nonstop action wrestling where the world champion is AJ Styles. And this man has had an impact, no pun intended, I really did not mean that, on my life. And when I heard that he was going to be coming to the WWE, I was like, no way. My favorite wrestler of all time, the guy that I grew up watching because I wasn't around at night to watch Monday Night Raw, was coming to the WWE. Now, there was obviously other recognizable faces. I'm like, oh my gosh, Festus is coming back? No, I was like, oh my gosh, you got Samoa Joe, you got so many important people. Eric Young is even debuting, and they're going to blow it with him.
I think Bobby Roode.
Bobby Roode was already there. I think he was champion at that time.
Word. Okay.
And then AJ, and then you hear that music. And listen, I'll be honest with you. If I'm going to be honest, they blew my favorite debut of all time. They did.
Oh, the camera.
And you know exactly why. Because they freaking had the camera on Roman Reigns. He didn't have his new teeth yet, so I didn't even want to look at him yet. They blew it
like that with his teeth.
I'm kidding. I didn't even know it was an issue before. They have the freaking camera on Roman Reigns' face going, what? Who the hell is that? The entire time. I'm like, just what? Because you know what's interesting about this was that music was not AJ Styles originally. It was James Storm's originally.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, weird, right? And
he chose
from
to
now
go back
on,
to Impact, right?
Yep. So I'll be honest. First live show I ever go to, I get an AJ Styles shirt. AJ Styles is my favorite wrestler of all time. And when WWE released that video hours later, because they know they messed up, of the different angle of AJ Styles' debut, and I see on that screen, there would have been no doubt what would have been my number one when I saw I Am Phenomenal come across that screen, and I go, that is it. That is it. That's it. If he doesn't win it, then I'm throwing my TV. Obviously, I knew that he wasn't going to win it, but you know, it's such an important thing when you can see somebody skip straight to the main roster. You know the impact that a man has when they don't even need to go to NXT to debut. Even though I would argue NXT is way different. Obviously now they've got Finn Balor, a repeat offender there now, but it's just like
he's a repeat offender
for. I have a joke there, but I'm not going to make it. No, you know which one I'm going to make. So I have, you know, okay. I don't want to go back and edit this. Because I was going to make it. So I have my favorite wrestler coming into the WWE, making an impact on me. And number one, it's AJ Styles, for me at least. Like I said, it's probably not going to be for everybody, but like, there's no memorable moment when I'm sitting there. It was like when Edge came back. I was like freaking out. I mean, with Edge coming back, I didn't even realize it. But Like, holy crap, AJ Styles and Joseph Park.
That one, AJ Styles is probably my favorite. At least I've got to watch. Just for similar reasons as you, I watched Impact during like the Hogan Bischoff era, which was it was hard to watch. But I mean, AJ Styles was a big part of that, and I love watching AJ. And I around the time around 2016, I was slowly becoming the mark that I am now, and I was keeping up with Ring of Honor and New Japan. I wasn't watching it by any means, I was keeping up with it.
Right.
And I heard when I mentioned Styles a bit ago and how he was the worst kept secret in wrestling because he got kicked out of the Bullet Club. And when they kick you out, they whoop your ass. That's how they say bye to you in the Bullet Club. Mm-hmm. So when they did that for AJ, I believe it was after Wrestle Kingdom. They did that, and I'm like, oh snap, where is he gonna go? And it was either back to TNA, but it didn't make any sense. So WWE was the only viable option. And at the Rumble, nonetheless, the perfect place to debut. Like you, I was upset. Like, why are they showing me Roman? And the crowd just erupted. Like it was like it was like, what's happening? He turned back. It's a guy in a hood, his arms out. It's like, oh my god, out of body experience. But that alternate angle, I want them to just edit that into the freaking network.
Actual,
Rumble. Yeah, come on. Let me have that memory in my brain instead of the stupid angle you had on Roman. Because Adam or Kevin Dunn was just like, oh, like you like keep it on Roman. It's like, no, fool. Roman didn't know Styles was coming out either. Or he might have, I don't care.
Kevin Dunn's teeth were on the wrong button at the time, so unfortunately,
freaking dumb man. But
I hate Kevin Dunn.
I love that debut so much. It's like you. I bought the song. I bought it on iTunes. I bought an AJ Styles shirt, the one and the phenomenal AJ one.
Was it the blue one? The blue one?
The blue one. Was it blue? It was the first AJ shirt they put out.
Okay, I was gonna say because I have the blue one. I don't know if that, but it reminds me of that.
It's in one of these bins or hanging out. I definitely have it with me. Maybe next week I'll wear on the show.
Yeah, so will I.
Because we're marks. But I was in Chicago when Y2AJ was a thing. I was there for their first match and when they broke up that night.
Yeah.
I bought my Y2AJ shirt before the match happened, and when I saw Chris Jericho turn on him, I'm like, yep, I'm keeping this forever. This is my favorite shirt of all time. Because it's a bad shirt in hindsight. It says like,
oh, we need a bad shirt episode.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. We'll find the worst wrestling shirts we can get. But AJ Styles, damn, like it's probably my favorite. That's why I had to mention it because I took a little bit of a different approach with this because I was like memorable or like they meant like the business was they shattered the business at the time. But AJ in his own way he broke the internet. AJ Styles was trending that whole night, and then a Raw the next day we're like, oh my god, what's gonna happen with AJ Styles? And his first WrestleMania was Chris Jericho. So
yeah,
what a way to go.
All right, my friend, you're next.
My number one debut of all time is a man. He was as green can be. He was no stranger to wrestling. He came up for WWE's developmental, and he did a great job there. So they brought him up, and little did we know, within 5 years he'd be the guy at WWE. So Kurt Angle had come out during an episode of SmackDown.
Wow.
And he was like, anyone in the back? Anyone in the back? And this guy comes out in these red or blue trunks, and he walks to the ring. Has his
pink
crew cut. They might have been pink either way. You know where I'm going. You know where I'm heading with this. It's
yes.
John Cena. John Cena is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. If my shirt doesn't tell you otherwise, I'm one of those Cena marks. Yes, he's done some questionable things in his career.
They were reddish pink. So
I mentioned the Nexus. This man single-handedly ruined the Nexus.
That's right.
So, but with that being said, John Cena's debut, little did we know at the time, with his ruthless aggression, and he socks the hell out of Kurt Angle. Like it would change wrestling forever.
That's right.
I firmly believe we will never have a John Cena-esque wrestler again. We had Hogan, had The Rock, Stone Cold, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, John Cena. Nobody else after that. Nobody else will be the pinnacle of the business like how John Cena is. Because now you could say Roman Reigns. I will beg to differ.
Yeah.
Because Seth Rollins has done a lot of great things. Probably has a better career than Roman so far. But even then, Seth isn't Cena. And no one will ever touch Cena's star power, what he meant to the business, WWE specifically. This man will never wrestle for any other company. If he wrestles, it will be for WWE. But John Cena, when I first got into wrestling and I first started watching Raw, and I noticed John Cena with his jean shorts and his sneakers wrestling every week because he would talk about untraditional. He was wrestling in jean shorts and knee pads. Everybody else had trunks, had these little wrestling trunks on. That's what at least what Randy Orton was doing at the time. And they were the two guys on Raw. They were facing each other all the time. They still do, whether you like it or not. But John Cena's debut, it ushered in this new era of professional wrestling for WWE. And whether you watched Impact, Ring of Honor, if you had Ring of Honor on your television, or if you were streaming New Japan at the time, even though a lot of people over here were not doing that, WWE was the go-to product. And John Cena changed the whole game with his raps, whether he was he was a doctor at a point, he was doing the Make-A-Wish thing. He means a lot to WWE. WWE is not where they're at right now unless John Cena makes his debut in June of 2002. And it's to me the most memorable, the best debut that I could possibly think of off the top of my head in regards to the business. Yeah. And we talk a lot about WWE here, and John Cena is WWE, whether he's in the Suicide Squad or he's making comedies. John Cena will forever be WWE, and that is my number one debut of all time.
That is, can't argue there. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about Cena's debut, but you definitely, that was good on you, my friend.
That was when you mentioned debuts to me, and I started writing down names. Cena was the first one I wrote down, and I love Styles' debut because I got to see it happen. And like you, we marked out, brother. We marked out as hard as we can. But when I think of debuts I've gone back and rewatched Cena's debut multiple times, and I'm like, just to think, who had the idea? No one thought this man would rule WWE for decades. Yeah. 2 decades. Because people are still asking for John Cena to come back and wrestle Keith Lee. And for him to wrestle all these. I would have loved to see John come back. Because when he came back last time, he put over Balor.
True.
I mean, that's all I can ask for. John Cena is one of my favorites of all time. Yeah, he's done some questionable things in regards to wrestling booking, but at the end of the day, he's still my man. Love you, John Cena.
Cannot deny that. Well, we're at the point in the show where we're going to end on some high points.
Oh yeah, God, I love these graphics.
So I had one, and I thought that I had thought that was going to be the one that we were going to talk about for about 15 seconds, and that is that Roman Reigns is going to beat the Uso. I forget which one it is. Jey Uso. He's going to beat Jey Uso in 45 seconds.
Whoa!
Just like at Clash of Champions, just like Brock destroyed Kofi Kingston, and that is why I think it's going to happen. But you actually just came up with another high point for me while we were discussing. Bear with me, everybody. While we were discussing different things when it comes down to it, I am going to drop the hottest take that I possibly can that I didn't even realize I was going to drop on you, my friend.
The highest of highs.
This is going to be a high take, a high point right here.
Mm-hmm.
When it's all said and done, as long as WWE does not mess it up, Roman Reigns will be the next Rock.
What?
And I say that. Listen to me. Hear me out.
I'm listening.
Now,
Wow.
they blew it early on with Roman Reigns, but I'm remembering a certain debut of a certain Rocky Maivia that nobody liked, everybody hated, everybody blew it. It wasn't until they turned that Samoan heel when he became Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And I have been saying for years, and I will say it on this show, but I've been saying it for years when we bring guests on who I worked with in the past, because I know that they're going to want to do this. I've told them this before. All Roman needed to do was turn heel so he could become what he needs to be. He needs to be Joe Anai. He is going to become... He is going to come out of his shell once he turns face eventually, but they need to keep him heel for the time being. They can't just skip it and turn him face.
Wow.
But I think that Roman Reigns is going to become the next big star in the same way that Cena and The Rock became stars for that reason alone, because all you needed to do was turn him heel, make him unlikable, and let's face it, again, horrible disease aside, he was starting to get the fans back when he came back. But then WWE booked him way too early. The issue is that the booking that you do with a superstar like that, when you just have him dominate and win the damn championship so quickly, that's a heel tactic. There's no denying it. Brock Lesnar does not come in, destroy Kofi Kingston, and leave if he a champion who I thought that they were booking fantastically if he was a face. I will say one of the worst things that they did with John Cena, even though it was setting up one of the best feuds that I had seen in a long time with him and CM Punk, was have him beat Rey Mysterio the exact same night that Rey won it, because guess what? That's not something you can hug him after the match as much as you want. And they went for a while, don't get me wrong, but you do not turn Rey Mysterio, or you do not have a guy just randomly show up and be like, well, I want a championship match on your battered and bruised ass. Give me my match, and have him be face. They did it right with Roman finally. And I think that it's going to come out on top from it.
Wow. Oh. See, and when you told me you had your one high point of this, your one high spot, hot take, whatever you want to call it. Wow. Okay. Let me try to unpack that. I could not agree with you more in regards to Roman needing to turn heel. Yes. Because now everyone's like, yo, this guy's awesome, which he is.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, Joe's a good guy. We've known Joe the Roman. He's a good guy, good dad. We've all known that for a while now. He's just been booked poorly. Poorly in the sense that, like, yeah, he's the champ of everything when Vince wants him to. And the fans don't like that. And he wore those vests, and he had the Shield music forever. And as of this recording, Night of Champions is this Sunday, and apparently he told a fan during like a little Zoom thing he's getting new music and new ring attire. So
cut the hair, do it.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
I've seen the picture online of what it could look like, and I'm like, cut the hair.
So on Sunday, we'll have a better idea of what Roman will look like going forward and sound like, especially with his new gimmick and his new music, because thank God we're ditching the Shield stuff, for the love of God. So I agree with you on that. I agree with everything you said in regards to Roman turning heel. The fans loving him once he turns face again, because it's inevitable. They did it with Rock. It worked. They did it with Stone Cold. It worked. Cool. Now the Cena thing. I don't know, and I think it's not Roman's fault, and it's not WWE's fault per se. But I think the reason why I have to disagree in regards to him being the next Cena is because wrestling isn't what it was 15 years ago.
Fair.
Because wrestling used to be like this household thing. Millions of people watched wrestling every Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Thursday, whenever the hell SmackDown was. But now, it's not the case anymore.
Right.
During the Monday Night Wars, when there's 2 wrestling programs at the same time on Mondays, Nitro and Raw were pulling in millions upon millions of viewers. Now Raw's lucky if they hit 2 million. If they're lucky. Mm-hmm. So, geez, I don't think Roman. They can try, and he'll get as close as he can. But I don't think he can be Cena because Cena's a household name. Agreed. Everyone knows who John Cena is. Everybody knows who The Rock is, who Stone Cold is, The Undertaker. But Roman, just because of the state of professional wrestling and how it's viewed in culture and in the pop culture zeitgeist, I don't think Roman can hit that. But he will be like the shit.
That's right.
Once he commits to this heel turn, because yes, he will beat the hell out of Jey Uso, 100%.
He better.
And when he fully commits to the heel thing, and he does that for a while, and then he turns face again, and he's like the tweener, a little like I'm doing dirty stuff, but I'm a face, and y'all like me, and we're all like, yay. Mm-hmm. Then okay, cool, it's gonna be awesome. But I just don't think he'll reach that point, just because nothing that it's his fault. It's just the cultural zeitgeist, and that's why I'm like, he's the last one. Cena's the last one.
Couldn't agree more.
Damn,
I see your point. I see your point completely, and I appreciate your perspective on that, because I've always thought it like, a heel turn is going to help Roman become that wrestler that he needs to be. But with that, we have officially made it through episode 1. I am so happy that we have done this. I'm so happy that we are here. I am so happy.
Anything else you'd like to add before?
I don't think so. I mean, listen, the thing is with this show is that there's going to be plenty of different things. And if you want to hear anything, any topic, you obviously know we have our 3 count. First topic's usually a big one, I would imagine, but things can vary. So if you guys hear anything that you want to hear, more top 3s, more top 5s, top 10s, fantasy bookings and stuff like that, please leave it in the comment section below. We would love to hear from you. We can't wait to eventually go live. It's going to be so exciting. But yeah, no, I mean, my big thing is like Chris and I, we have a ton of stuff planned moving forward. We kind of had to knock out a couple of important ones, like obviously poo-poo Retribution a little bit and COVID impact on wrestling. But we have a Halloween Havoc eventually episode coming. Yes. We have picked our show, and when it comes down to it, if you know how bad Halloween Havocs can get, you're going to know which episode which Halloween Havoc we're going to be doing. But if you don't already, then look into those.
Exactly. And just look at the Halloween Havocs from the 1990 to 2000, and you can decipher which one you think we can touch on, especially after hearing our taste in wrestling and how goofy we can be sometimes and how goofy WCW can be sometimes.
That's right. So, we're going to be doing a fantasy booking of a tournament of Raw Underground with past superstars. You might see Umaga in there. So we're probably going to need to build a bracket up with that. But I think that would probably be a segment, an episode where we dedicate it to kind of just knocking out a few things here and there. Dependent upon obviously how many people that we have. But that said, like I said, we want fan engagement. We want fan everything. If you like what we're doing, eventually I'm sure that we're going to have some stuff on the Teespring for this show. Link in the bio. Obviously, we are excited to get some things going. We have plenty of other shows on this channel. If you're a fan of film, we will definitely be talking some wrestling movies on this show. Oh, yeah. And we have plenty to do on this channel. Definitely tune in to Real Talk in a couple of days. Really Scared on Thursday. Spin from the Real if you like wrestling and trivia on Wednesdays with Matt and Chris. And we have follow our socials. I'm more active on Instagram. He's more active on Twitter, but we both use both. And I don't know if you have anything to say, partner?
I mean, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Come check out Wrestle Reel every Friday. It'll be here at least this one was posted at 6. If anything changes, we'll let you know as soon as we can. But next week, anticipate it at the same time. All the social medias are scrolling at the bottom, and we'll put them in the description. Not only ours, but for the channel as well. So you can go ahead, like us on Facebook at Who Are They Real Entertainment. Go ahead, like or subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to us and follow us on Twitch. Watts_Real Podcast. We do fun stuff on Twitch sometimes, and we stream from on there. We have big events going on. We have a ton of stuff going on. If you want to see what I'm doing personally outside of Who Are They, I have my own podcast that I hope to get Nick on one day to talk about. Maybe wrestling, maybe not. It doesn't matter. It's up to him. But for Chris's sake, go ahead and check out my podcast. It's all over the place. Wherever you find your podcast, Apple, Spotify, it's not SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, all that fun stuff. You can actually find all the Watts stuff on Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, all that jazz. So we're all over the place. We have a lot going on, and I just hope you come along and hang out with us on Wrestle Reel every Friday for now until we go live, and we'll let you guys
figure
know
it out
as soon as we can.
And you're gonna see, if you want more bite-sized versions of these types of videos, find us on our Who Are They Real Entertainment highlights channel. Watt highlights. I'm a bit behind on uploading them and creating them, but I'm definitely going to be taking, something that's nice with this type of a format is we have 3 segments that we can obviously create everything for. We're obviously always going to have 3 highlights to pull from this. It's going to be whether it be our top 3 favorite whatever, a discussion that we do. Retribution is hot right now, so I'm definitely anticipating that we are going to be seeing that. But if you want all of our perspectives on that, definitely check that out. That will be in the link in the bio. The Teespring will be in the link in the bio. Please subscribe. Please come back next week for another Wrestle Reel. We are super excited to keep going with this. But yeah, with that, my name is Nick.
I am Chris Anthony Lopez. And for everyone here at Who Are They, we're Wrestle Reel, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you next time. Thank you.